Clayton Moore was no longer on the show. No one knew why. Was it money? The replacement actor did a terrible job, and when Moore came back, he never spoke. The shocking case that tried to take away his rights in the 1980s hid the man behind the Lone Ranger for good. He faced much darker battles. Jack Carlton Moore was born on September 14th, the same day as more of the show's bad guys. He was born in Chicago in 1914 and was the youngest of 3 boys. His father, Charles, was a real estate agent. The family had enough money to get by during the Great Depression. A lot of families lost everything, but the Moores had a maid who lived with them and a summer home in Canada that they could use. Jack was able to dream, which was something most kids didn't have the freedom to do. Jack wanted to become a doctor like his father, but he felt pulled toward acting instead. He had trouble with his body as a child. He was already different by the time he was 8 years old. When he went on summer trips to Canada, he worked hard to become a circus dancer. While the other kids played and swam, Jack did flips and hung from trees like a dancer. It paid off when he got home. When he was 19, he was in a professional trapeze group called the Flying Bears. Besides being a dancer, he had to catch other people in the air, which was dangerous and hard work. But he loved it. The Chicago World's Fair opened that same year, in 1934. A lot of people came to see the future, and Jack Moore was right there, acting well. Above the crowds, he put on shows every day that amazed people with how strong he was. Exactness, it wasn't just fun, it was publicity that made people pay attention. Skill Scouts saw more in him than just his jumps. They also saw a friendly face for the camera, charm, and wit that took him to a new world. Moore signed with the John Robert Powers Agency to be a model in New York. At the time, Moore's big deal. Powers was one of the best modeling companies. He was a great fit through the tall, strong cheekbones and bright eyes. In the late 1930s, his picture appeared in ads, catalogs, and magazines. The American Ideal modeling gave him money and contacts in the business, but there was still something missing. Pictures of where Silent Jack wanted to move in 1938. He did something dangerous when he left New York and went to Hollywood. There is a big part waiting for him. All he needs is a portfolio and good athletic skills. In his early years, he did any part he could get, from small parts to stunts. Others worried about Moore's work, but he saw it as training and watched how he learned how to move the cameras and understand timing from watching players say their lines. As time went on, his lighting and presence got better. In 1940, a director named Edward Little spoke up. He liked Jack's good looks and skills, but he thought his name was too long. The reason Jack changed his name to Clayton Moore wasn't just to make a point. Clayton Moore changed his mind and now thought he was meant to be on TV or in movies. Was given a new name, which he fully accepted. That same year, Clayton married Mary Frances with them on the plane to Las Vegas for the wedding. Mary's mother joined them. Hollywood affair was exciting, but it didn't last less than 2 years. Eventually, they split up, and their lives went in different ways. Worked with Republic Studios on the science fiction show he was just about to break through in 1942. Clayton was a big hit in the movie Perils of Neoka, where he played Dr. Larry Grayson, who fought enemies on horses, climbed walls, and even did brain surgery in caves. It was too much, but Clayton made it seem real by showing emotion on his face. Really, His body did the tricks that food cost a lot of money. $1.75. 10 was a lot of money at the time, but Moore showed he was a star. Republic quickly saw him as their next big comic book star, even bigger than Buster Crabbe. The same way his career was, Moore stopped everything to serve in World War II that same year. When he joined the U.S. Army Air Forces, he wasn't sent overseas because of it. During his time as a trapeze artist, he hurt his knee, but he still did a lot to help his training in Texas. He was stationed in Kingman, Arizona, and used his show business skills there to plan and organize entertainment for the troops. Many of the soldiers knew him from his movies and made fun of him for them. His parts, but they still looked up to him. Later, he worked with the first motion picture unit to make teaching films like Target Invisible, which helped American pilots get ready for battle. He even spent, Moore said, that his time at the unit's base in Culver City, California, wasn't he was busy, but he was proud of what he had done. He was released with honors. During his time in Arizona in July 1945, something much more personal also happened to him. Moore asked his lover, model Sally Allen, to marry him over the phone from the military station. She said yes right away, and even moved to the middle of the group of the desert to be with him. It was usual for wartime lovers to fall in love quickly. It was in the 1940s, but they were married for 43 years until Sally died in 1986. She did more than just help Moore. She became part of the base's atmosphere by often taking part in the shows he put together for people. Later, people who worked with Moore said that his love for Sally made them think of how loyal he was as the Lone Ranger. Moore didn't wait long to get back into movies after the war. He worked non-stop from 1946 to 1947 on westerns, which were his only goal. Big names like Roy Rogers and Gene Autry talked to him and his work because of how well he did. Moore got parts in a number of movies, including Five Gone the Cowboy and The Indians, and Riders of the Whistling were both Autry movies. Pines in 1949 and Sons of New Mexico in 1950, and both in 1952, Barbed Wire and A Night Stage were brought to Galveston. He learned a lot from these, especially working with big stars. In 1940 SIXS, The Crimson Ghost, he played an unknown as the masked hero. He also made guest roles on TV shows like The Gene Autry Show and The Range Rider were two parts that helped shape the tough, but the kind of good-hearted persona that would come to define him. Then, in 1947, Moore got the part that really showed off his ability. He played Jesse James in the movie Jesse James Rides Again, which was shot in just over a month. Moore's Jesse wasn't just an outlaw who was trying to do the right thing. People were hooked because he was so fierce. The figure felt real because they were quick to draw and had a dangerous edge. So well did it do that Republic Pictures immediately ordered a follow-up in April 1948. Moore returned for Tales of Frank and Jesse James. That one was even faster to shoot. It only took 21 days, and enough money to spend $149,985. The stunts were exciting, and even though Tom Steele was in charge of the most dangerous parts, Moore wrote a lot of his own books, and these two 13-chapter books were different because most Republic books had 15 parts, but they were good and showed Moore could write. In 1949, George W. Trindle, the man, played a hero with many sides. Behind the hit radio version was looking for someone to bring his masked hero to he didn't want just any actress for TV. He wanted someone who looked moved. Hearing justice itself when Clayton Moore walked into the audition and told Mr. Trindle, "I am the Lone Ranger." Moore hadn't just said that. He had already shown that trust in Ghost of he was very active and had worked as a trapeze artist before, which made him a great fit for the part. Until he was 20 years old. He was born in Chicago and appeared at the Century of Progress Expo. Moore wasn't acting when the first show aired on ABC on September 15, 1949. He was the Lone Ranger, but Moore had a deep, rich voice. Something strange happened. Trindle didn't think it was right, that he wanted Moore to sound just like Brace Beamer, the radio host. Wasn't upset. He worked hard with a vocal teacher and practiced until he, even though Trindle could match every tone and beat, he wasn't happy in 1950. Told the producers that Moore was moving away from Beamer's sound too much, and even they said they would replace him. But Moore didn't give up. He changed his voice, fully turning into the audio and video versions that fans had loved for years. That because of this, his voice became famous, and he moved from radio to TV. The Lone Ranger wasn't just about one man when it first came out on TV. Became a big deal. Ratings were a huge number 7 in 1950 to 1951. Number 18 from 1951 to 1952 and number 29 from 1952 to 1953. But it was the union between Moore and Jay Silvers who made it really special. Silver Heels is a real Irish performer. White actors used to wear makeup to play Tonto, so she was a big change. Sato still spoke broken English, but Silver Heels gave him parts like these. People who liked dignity noticed that they said the Ranger and Tonto weren't master and servants. They were on the same level, and that thought meant something to people. Since things weren't so fair in 1951, Silver Heels $150 a week plus a $2,500 bonus by 1954. $650 a week, but they still made less than Moore, even though they were close. Made this show unforgettable, and it came at just the right time, when TVs were becoming more popular in a lot of houses. Many people from all over America came to watch the Covered Man and his friend ride. Moore didn't just look the part, he also lived it. He trained Silver the horse himself. He did his own tricks, like running, jumping, and wrestling. After many years, Moore would show off his body in episode after episode. 71 years old, he was still able to spin his Colt 45s in public and thrill fans. He was still in shape, quick, and the Lone Ranger. He always told fans that because it was against the rules, Ranger never shot to kill. Moore thought it was true, but in 1952, the impossible happened. Moore was John Hart stepped in and took over right away. The show went on, but something was Moore wasn't told why, and in his book he said he never asked. Some people said it was some people, like his daughter, thought he knew about the contract conflict the Lone Ranger goods and may have asked for a cut, but she also didn't think he was the Trindle thought it didn't matter that the actor was the type to expect money. It was clear from the mask that he was wrong while he was away for a year. Moore kept going to work. He dropped the name Clayton and used Clay Moore in Radar Men from the Moon. He played a bad guy named Graber in a low-budget TV show, and Moore the lead actor broke his nose during a fight scene by mistake. He also starred with Phyllis in Jungle Drums of Africa. Coates, the first Lois Lane, these parts paid the bills, but they weren't by 1953. Trindle had had enough of the thrill or fame of being the Lone Ranger. I watched all 52 episodes with Hart and wasn't pleased. Hart was stiff as fans didn't connect with him because his voice was flat and he was slouched in the seat. The show was losing steam, and Moore got a new agent, the same one who worked with Silver. Heels talks began, and Moore didn't just come back. He came back with a better offer. Paycheck Hart was quietly fired with no reason given. Moore just put on the mask again after the fight, and the show went back on track. After that, Moore was in 169 of the show's 221 episodes when he came back. The balance between Silver Heels episodes felt right again, and even following the end of the show on June 6, 1957, Moore didn't stop for another 40 years. For many years, he went public as the Lone Ranger and shot commercials, talked on talk shows, and he brought the role with him everywhere. In 1979, he said the Lone Ranger's creed at events, but a court order tried to stop him. Though Moore fought back and won the right to keep playing the part he loved. Things also changed. Behind the scenes, businessman Jack Rather bought the rights to the character, and he didn't just bring back Moore. He paid for the final filming with his own money. Season in color, even though ABC was still showing it in black and white. They thought the show would do well in the future and took it to theaters twice. After The Lone Ranger, 1956, which made $1.55 million in ticket sales, there were other movies. United States and The Lone Ranger and The Lost City of Gold 1958. Moore and Silver Heels were in both movies, which were shot in Eastman color and became rare classics. Clayton Moore was popular for a long time after the Lone Ranger TV show ended. During the 1960s and 1970s, he kept the character living by ads. The one for Gino's Pizza in 1972 was one of the most memorable. Brought back his old co-star Jay Silver Heels. They were both dressed up. Played off the famous line from the show, "Who was that masked man?" This time, the question was who gave them pizza rolls. It was strange but fun. Many people really liked it. Moore also did ads for Aquavelva with his deep, recognizable voice. He connected with them right away and never saw these ads as just business. He only played parts that showed the Lone Ranger as a hero with strong beliefs. The mask wasn't just an outfit, it had a deeper meaning. His life wasn't going well in August 1986, just 6 months after the death of his wife. The second time Sally Allen Moore got married was 43 years ago. Her name was Connie Corlello, and she had some people were unhappy with the marriage because Sally's nurse didn't last long. By 1989, it was over. In October 1986, the couple got attention for doing something brave. They helped a hurt person. Moore was a driver on a California road at the time. He was in his 70s, but still jumped in to help. A lot like the part he played after the divorce, things got Moore was getting older, having trouble figuring out who he was, and was in court fighting a case. A lawsuit hit the Jack in August 1979 that shocked him to his heart. The company that owned the rights to the Lone Ranger got a court order to stop Moore would not wear the mask in public until he was 65 years old. He had played the Lone Ranger in 221 shows and various other roles for nearly 30 years, but they were afraid that Rather's company was making a new Lone Ranger movie. Moore's continued presence would make things hard for everyone and cost them $18 million. On the day of the court meeting, Moore wore a full cowboy outfit with a white hat and the mask that the judge had given him. Asked him to take off his hat. More quietly left, but the mask was still on. For him, the case was about more than just the law. It was also very personal. Vern Foster, a judge, said Moore could no longer wear the mask or call himself the Lone Ranger in public. The decision was based on an old clause in Moore's contract, which was a crushing blow.